Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glen Mills. The state's effort to make school board candidates affiliate with a political party took a blow during the week. District Judge Andrew Stone ruled it's a violation of the state constitution and sided with the plaintiffs who took the issue to court. Now, here's a little background. Senate Bill 78 passed back in the 2016 legislative session, and it would have applied to elections starting in 2018, but now that's on hold, pending the state's next move. We're digging deeper into the story now with two of the plaintiffs in the case. They are Sheryl Allen. She is with Utahns for Public Schools. We also have current Board of Education member Carol Lear with us. Ladies, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate having you.
Glad to be here.
So a big ruling in your favor. What was your initial response when you had heard what had happened?
Well, elation, because I see it as a victory for the people of Utah and adherence to the Utah Constitution.
Carol, your thoughts?
And I was excited. I thought it was a tough case, and it's always hard to go to state court. And so I was excited, and we'd planned to appeal it to the Supreme Court, the Utah Supreme Court, if necessary. So this was better. Okay.
Well, we'll see where it goes from here. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But let's talk about why take it to court in the first place. The argument was it violated the Utah Constitution. How so?
Well, the Constitution, the Utah Constitution provides there can't be a partisan test for employment in the public schools is what they are. There's a couple of other provisions or a couple of other kinds of things, membership. So there is certainly a constitutional prohibition against a test, and one of the questions is how broad is test? Is it only a very narrow definition, or is it a broader kind of a concept?
Sheryl, let's bring you in for your thoughts on that. Why take it through the court system?
Well, several of the plaintiffs include Carol, Utahns for Public Schools, which I'm on a board member of, and also Alliance for a Better Utah Education Fund. And those groups, as well as a number of individuals, have advocated for years for the continuance of nonpartisan elections, because this is not a new issue. It didn't just come up in 2016.
It's been in court before, we should mention, by the way, as well. Well, in different elements.
A different element.
Yes.
And so we've been advocates for years to have this nonpartisan election the very way it was in 2016 when Carol first ran. And when this passed, there really didn't seem to be any other recourse. Representative Ray Ward did file a bill in 2017 to take it back to the nonpartisan issue. And it didn't even get out of committee, so it was the last recourse. Okay,
let's talk about the impact of partisanship in these school board elections. What were some of the concerns there?
About making if the school board were to be partisan?
Right.
Well, that it forces the candidates to the extremes of both parties in order to get through a convention. It's much harder, it's more complicated, it's more expensive, and regular people who would run for the school board probably would be less inclined to take that on.
Let's take up an argument from the other side and have you respond to that.
All right.
We do know that school board elections tend to get less attention than some of the other ones as far as turnout and whatnot. So some would argue that going through the delegates is a good test for that candidate and potentially draws more attention to their election. Your thoughts there?
Well, that has been an argument, but that was proven wrong in 2016 when 8 members of the 15-member State School Board of Education ran for election on the nonpartisan basis. It was the last year of nonpartisan politics, according to Senate Bill 78. And it was a rigorous and lively, and people were truly across the state paying attention to it. And partisan politics brings in the party platforms, and the delegates are judging which candidates adhere to the party platforms. The party platforms between the two major parties are quite different. We think that candidates should be concentrating on children and what children need and what they should be learning in the classroom.
Carol, let's bring you in on that point because you are a current member of the board. Do you see potentially, if this were to go through down the road, board members bringing in their Republican principles or their Democratic principles and trying to apply that to the classroom.
Right. I think there are some issues that the board discusses that do have partisan implications. And I think if the board members were selected by a convention and by parties, I think that would change the cooperative nature of the board. I think it would make it more divisive. I think that the board members would feel beholden to the various parties that may have nominated them. The other route now through Count My Vote isn't gathering signatures, but because these districts are so large for the state board, you'd be gathering, I'd be gathering, I think somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 signatures.
Right, to get on the ballot to go around the delegates if that's what you wanted to do. Let's talk about next steps. I've checked in with the state, and at this point their official comment is we're still looking this over and deciding whether we are going to appeal this decision or not. Where do you see this going? Well,
it was interesting because the judge didn't just grant the TRO, but he also granted partial summary judgment for the plaintiffs, which is a much, I should say it's a higher bar. I'm not a litigator, but still it's a much higher bar for the state to overcome. A TRO is one thing. We kind of thought that might happen, but that makes it harder to appeal. On the other hand, the legislature is powerful. It likes its partisan politics. So I'll be surprised if they don't appeal.
If they don't appeal. Sheryl, I want to kind of go back to a point made a little earlier. Not this exact issue, but how to select or elect a school board has gone before a judge before with similar results. So did you kind of feel like there was a precedent leading your way?
The previous case, I believe it was in 2014, was when there was a committee that screened the candidates. And it actually went to federal court, and it was decided on a federal issue. And, of course, this had to go to state court because it was decided on the Utah state constitution. So we as plaintiffs, did not feel like there was a precedence. But as plaintiffs, as a group of plaintiffs, I just might say that we were particularly pleased that the Utah PTA, which has always been a great advocate for children, one of the best, and always advocated for nonpartisan elections by the public, not committees, that they were always part of this and were thrilled, but there was really no precedent.
Okay. I have about 30 seconds left, but I just want to get one last thought in. What's to stop legislator down the road from, you know, if this ruling does stand, from trying to work around it somehow in another bill?
There's always that possibility. Legislators are creative. I feel like they like partisan politics. They believe in that system. And so I think there will likely be some creative alternative. I can see that as likely as taking this to the Supreme Court.
Okay, well, much more to come on this story. We'll see what the state does next, and then you guys will make your decision from there. Appreciate your time.